Well, welcome back. How are you feeling this fight week?
I'm feeling great. A new improved Chepe, no injuries, no nothing. Weight cut's great. Camp went amazing. Just ready to perform.
I think we got to first get the elephant out of the room. We want to talk a little bit about the whole fight there. How did that happen? When did you hear about it? What were your thoughts when everything happened?
Yeah, what's crazy is I didn't know till like 4 hours after they had the bout going. I was busy doing things and, obviously getting ready for that fight. And then we went to a fight card. And when I got to the fight card, everybody was like, hey, what's up, Chepe? And they kind of like giving me a side eye, and I was like, oh, this is weird, And then I sat down, and then my coaches and another friend came by, and they were like, hey, man, did you hear? And I was like, hear what? And they're like, Dan Ige is fighting Diego Lopez. And I was like, oh, I got replaced? Like, they replaced me? Like, that is crazy. And they're like, no, he's fighting tonight. And I was like, tonight? And they're like, yeah, in 4 hours. They got matched up. So I was a little like confused at first. I was like, can they even do that? But I was like, hats off to Dan Ige to take that fight, 4 hours notice. So I was like, man, that's some dog shit right there. Like, congrats, like it was great. But then it was like, all right, who's next for me? And then, Damon Jackson popped up.
So when you hear that, somebody stepping in on 4 hours, does that give, I feel like you guys are all like, oh, I want to do that now. Is that something that you would do?
Yeah, oh, for sure. Yeah, if you're in this fight business, you have to stay busy and stay ready. You never know when the right opportunities are coming. Like him, he got the right opportunity, got the right call. Was at the right place at the right time, and the right weight, and I felt like he, if any fighters like that, I'm pretty sure they're down to go,
How long between when that moment happened when you heard about, hey, my opponent's gone, until you heard about the new opponent? Was there a downtime where you're like, do I have a fight still?
No downtime. I'm always training, so it's like an addiction, you just consistently working on new things, and that's what we're doing. And yeah, like I looked at Dan Ige, and then it was like, okay, next opponent, and we're looking at already the top 10. We're just trying to move forward from that, or anybody, because I've said yes to many ranked opponents, but I get a lot of no's, or they're already matched up. So it was cool to just have Damon Jackson step in at the right time.
So what sort of fight are you expecting from him?
A scrapper, he's good. With his IQ and everything else, he's good at like calculating his takedowns and everything else. I feel like he's not big of a brawler, and if he runs into another brawler, it's kind of a bad end for him. And I feel like this is that kind of fight where he's got to really use his IQ to fight me.
Do you see this fight going the full 3 rounds? I know everybody says, oh, we train for 3 rounds, but what are you realistically expecting from that fight?
Yeah, well, like I definitely want to finish. I know he's looking for a finish. I feel like if you want to do good in this business, you have to be a good, finisher. And yeah, that I feel like first, second round is going to be the goal.
And I know you don't want to look past him, but are you still eyeing Dan Ige? Is that somebody you still want to fight, or are you like over that at this point?
Anybody at this point, a lot of people kind of give me other offers of guys that I've lost to that were before the UFC and stuff like that. They're like, oh, you should rematch this guy or this guy. But I feel like anybody that's in my path that I'll fight, even if a guy I lost to or won, or like whatever I got to do to get to the title,
I know you just recently told MMA Junkie that you would fight Ilya would you fight him on 4 hours notice?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Really?
Like if you spar with Justin Gaethje, like you have like 20 minutes to really think of your life, like you're like, okay, I gotta really warm up, I gotta really stretch out, I gotta move my head, and I feel like those are those kind of moments, like you're about to fight one of the dangerous guys in the world. So you have to be prepared for it, mentally, physically, and spiritually as well. Because sometimes, those rounds don't go as well, and, you got to come out with your chin up. So I feel like, yeah, anybody at the top 10 for sure. I never said no to a fight, so I wouldn't start now.
I've heard some fighters say that they prefer a short notice fight because then they don't have weeks and weeks and weeks of like overthinking everything. What are your thoughts on short notice?
Short notice is, for me, I think they're fun. It's part of the business, It's part of, like it's like being on a team and you're on the bench and they're like, hey, our player got injured, you're in. Like I look at it as that kind of way, like I like however we do it. You know, if we have some time to really train and go out there and put on a better performance than a short notice fight, that's fine. But I feel like anything is good, you know. For me, I don't get anxious or anything. I love this, so it's just fun.
Thank you.
Oh, Chepe, so because of a couple fight cancellations, you guys got bumped up to the co-main event. Do you see that as a bigger opportunity? Is it still the same fight, you know, not any more stakes really added?
Yeah, no, I feel like it makes it a little bigger. Obviously, you know, it's the co-main event. People are going to be watching, and we obviously have to put on a show. I've been seeing a lot of shows and a lot of guys kind of talking more than fighting, and then when they go out there and perform, it's nothing. And I feel like we're that fight where we're going to go put on some fireworks, do some, you know, put on the real display of MMA.
Yeah, and building off of that, you know, a lot of people say that the heavyweights always get the main events because they're bigger. Do you think this is one of those fights where you guys will steal the show?
Yeah, for sure. I feel this is fight of the night potential for sure. You know, I feel like it's going to be more of a mixed martial arts kind of fight. You know, I know the heavyweights put on the show as well, but I feel like we're more all over the cage. You have to really like pay attention to the style and what the other guy's giving. And yeah, man, I feel like we're definitely going to be that fight on this card that's going to just be nothing but brawling and fun.
And not that anyone in the UFC is an easy fight, but the UFC's given you 3 tough opponents so far. Do you think that Damon Jackson is the most dangerous opponent you faced in the octagon?
For sure, for experience purposes, you know, he's been in it for a while. You know, like the guys that I beat were just in, you know, and I feel like if they were even had their experience, maybe they could have changed up the fight, you know, and I feel like I'm fighting a guy who has way more experience, more time to be in the lights, be in the crowd. So I feel like this is that fight to really, you know, certify me as one of the best in the division.
And when you're breaking down and getting ready for a guy like Damon Jackson, is it something you think about like, hey, I want to go for the knockout, but I can't fully anticipate it because if he's still standing there at round 3, he can turn this thing around?
Yeah, for sure. Like, and that's what I love about this fight. You know, he's that guy. If you can't take him out in the first or second, he's gonna try to give it to you in the 3rd round. So I love fights like that. You know, like I love guys that want to go out there and fight, not trying to, you know, like make it boring or anything like that. Like I come into this business to be exciting, and I hope everybody else wants to be exciting as well.
And I know, you know, obviously tough test, don't want to look past Damon Jackson, of course, but with a win here, especially an impressive one, is it time where you start getting a little bit pickier with your opponent selection, say, hey, I need a ranked opponent moving forward?
Yeah, for sure, especially after this win. Like I said, like this guy's been in it for a while, and if I get a big win, I would love a ranked guy. You know, like I said yes to Dan Ige without a heartbeat. You know, like I was like, let's go. You know, like I didn't have to even talk to my coaches or anything like that. Like that's who I am. Like, and the top 10, that's what it is. You know, like at the time I was chasing Volkanovski, and then now it's either Tapora, and then it was Max Holloway. So it's like a lot of dudes. Like I would love on my resume as well. You know, like my resume speaks for itself. There's nothing but dogs I've fought, and that's what I want to keep up.
And of course, you want to climb to the top, become the UFC champion, but how do you weigh your priorities with wanting to be a champion, but also like, I just really want these special moments, these special fights that are going to be remembered?
Oh, I feel like everything's special, man, about it. You know, you'll intake it after camp. When you go home and the fights are done and nobody's bothering you and you're home, like you'll appreciate it. You'll be like, oh, this is like an amazing opportunities. You know, like not a lot of people get to do what I'm doing where I'm from, and it's cool to represent them and represent others, you know, to be here and then, yeah, just go out there and really set the tone that, you know, to be a champion, you can't just look at it as too crazy, but you got to have fun along the way.
Thank you.
No problem.
I know at the beginning when you first started, you said we're going to see a new Chepe.
Yeah.
You know, you've been on a run. You're on a current win streak. I mean, I guess first, what did you feel you need to change, and what did you mean by saying you're a new Chepe?
Just more calculated. I want to get more finishes. Out of my 6-fight win streak right now, I got 4, which is okay for me. But like, I just want consistently to evolve and just be a better, not just better in the cage, but a better person outside of the cage, and keep evolving. I want to get better at these kind of things, get better at communicating, better at explaining who I am and what I am.
Well, I know a dub still goes a long way having that W, but at the end of the day, when you look back, are you upset when you don't get a finish at the end of a fight?
Oh, for sure. Even with the win, I even tell my partner, I'm like, man, I got to get these finishes. It's just, and it's more of like, I want to be one of the best mixed martial artists in the world, and to be that example, you have to get these finishes. You have to get wins. You have to, if you got like guys go like, oh, you have only 5 knockouts, and it's like, oh, you need a little more to like really cement yourself in those top kind of contenders, and that's where I kind of want to land. And
it kind of feels like, we've even seen the promotion kind of come out and almost feel like they kind of rate fighters on their own, whether they're exciting or not. Is that the sort of stuff that you internalize and you think other fighters as well? Or when you guys tell yourself, I have to be exciting so that the UFC brass enjoys my fights?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I feel like I'm exciting no matter what. Even if I go out there and I'm a little nervous or scared or whatever, or too hyped up, like I always go out there and perform. The fighter me is just part of the moment, and it's entertaining. It's not boring. I throw everything from top to bottom. I do throws, I clinch, I dirty box. I make the fight what fighting is. It's not, I know people are like, oh, I want you to make it a little prettier, but when it's like, man, we're in the fight business. Like there was no gladiator out there with one shot kill, like, man, it had to get dirty. So I feel like that we are those kind of examples right now.
And I know, I'm sure every fighter, as confident as they are, has those nervousness right before the fight starts. But for you, when does that switch go off and when does that go away? Is it in the walkout? Is it when you're in the cage? Is it while you're in the room getting ready to walk out? When does that go away for you?
When I step into the cage. And it's crazy because, like, I'll feel it in the back. I feel like, okay, well, like everything's going good in my camp. Like, let's try to figure out how am I going to feel in this fight, But I always have these crazy feelings, and I read it through other champions, what they go through. Some people even throw up before they fight, before they do, they cry. Some guys cry, and I'm like, okay, like I'm a little different. But once I step in that cage, it shuts down. I feel like somebody else comes and kind of like takes over the fight, while the softer side or the nervous side of me is like, oh, okay, you go do that.
Does that character have a name?
Chepe.
That's when Chepe shows up?
Yep. So, like, I look at it as, like, Chepe Machine Gun as a whole different person. Like, I'm not that guy right now, but when I'm in the cage, I'm definitely that guy.
That's awesome. Last for me, your keys to the victory. What needs to happen to make sure that you get your arms raised on Saturday?
Staying calculated and trying to really go out there and put the pressure, put my fighting style out there, and really put that display and get the W on a finish for sure.